going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream, and we are going to be getting lit. Of course, everyone here wants to look at the red angle, so this is on the RED Komodo. I did figure out how to get the display off of the output from the SDI, and this camera is wireless, so I'll bring that up here in just a second. And I got something else for you guys tonight. I put a second microphone up here by the whiskey. Let's turn that on so you can hear the sounds. Wasn't that cinematic? Welcome to the stream. I'm getting lit. I'm Tommy Calloway. So yeah, the A camera tonight, A7S III. B camera tonight, and the wireless cam is the RED Komodo. And in fact, I can bring that up here and show you. Here we are. So this is my B cam. It's the RED Komodo. I did get the small HD Indy 7. It's I pre-ordered it pretty much the day it was announced, and it's probably the first one that's not been sent by Small HD to show up anywhere because I ordered it so darn quick. They didn't even announce it yet. But this is my setup, and yes, you can control the whole camera with the screen. So here I can set the shutter angle, I can start and stop recording. Yeah, yeah. It's got a bunch of cool controls. I still got a lot to learn about it, but it's quite, you know, so you can see all the controls and stuff there. I'm on R3D LQ now. You can switch that out, move it up to high quality if you wanted to. There we go. So this is my build. It's all set up, finally done. And for transmitting, I'm using the Mars 400S Pro over SDI, and that's via SDI out from the monitor. So that's my B cam, my whiskey cam. I'm going to stick it back over there. Get that all set up and focused. There we go. All right, so that's the pretty expensive B cam we got going there, right? The RED Komodo. Did the math of pretty much all that was invested into getting that entire thing set up, and if you include taxes and you include shipping, it's probably around $13,000. And if you include the $1,000 price tag that you could get if you were to sell it now used, because it's just the availability, you could probably get another $1,000 or $2,000 off of that. And then, you know, just having the entire package like that, if I were to sell it as a whole package, I could probably even get another premium on that for, I could probably get an even $15,000 if I were to sell it right now. And that's, you know, it's pretty tempting. I could get a lot of stuff with that money that would also sit in my studio. And alternatively, which I am doing, is I'm learning about the camera. I'm learning how to use it, what it's capable of. I've filmed, well, I've written a script for a video, which I've already done tests side by side with the Komodo and the A7S III. And I've posted a few pictures on Twitter that you guys have probably seen. And a lot of people can't tell the difference between the image, the 4K image, and of the A7S III and the 4K image of the RED Komodo. That being said, you'll have to wait for the video to come out to actually see the comparisons, but I do think that the 6K image from the Komodo downsampled to a 4K image when you're putting it on a 4K timeline does look slightly better and a little bit more sharper, as it would as a 6K image being downscaled to 4K. So I do think that does look a little bit sharper. And long story short, the global shutter, it's not just motion, it's also light and motion, and I'll be going over this in the entire, in the whole video when I do publish it. But for those curious, the rolling shutter. So when you have a light that flickers and it goes off and on really, really quick, you start getting a banding effect. And so that banding effect will appear in your motion. Like when you see a lightning strike, you know, half the screen is like white and then the other half is like, you can just see half of it. And then, or, you know, just that's an artifact of rolling shutter. And the banding effect from a flickering or fluorescent light, that's an artifact of rolling shutter. With global shutter, that doesn't exist. It's just on or off. And so that's the one reason that the Komodo is most interesting to me, is lights. And me being the guy that talks about light so often, it just seems like a really interesting thing to have around to demonstrate, you know, rolling shutter effects of a flickering light or a light that flickers a lot when you're trying to film it, high frame rates or high shutter speed. So, but this is YouTube, right? And I don't have paid clients. And any advantage in image quality that I get from the RED Komodo, there's a point where YouTube compression will never let anyone except for me editing that footage see the difference in image quality. So it's you know, it's a weird thing for me to think about. If, you know, I could deck out my studio with all the A7S3s that I need and an FX6 or possibly an FX3 whenever that's announced, or keep the Komodo. And at this point, I still think I'm keeping the Komodo. I definitely need to do some internet points with it and compare it against an iPhone. And I want to do what I said months ago, where I'll compare the difference between a modern something like maybe the A7S3 plus lights to equivalent budget of the Komodo build versus just the Komodo and working with what's around a normal person's house. So there's stuff that I need to film with it. It's hard to imagine myself using the Komodo as an A camera for a lot of my videos after I filmed a few videos with it already. And here, let's take a sip and let's break for a second and talk about the lights that we have going on tonight. We got the microphone there so you can hear all the whiskey sounds. First off, for the lights this evening, I'm still using the ProLight Orion behind me, and that's giving me this nice green background outline light. It also is giving a tiny bit of flare on the screen of the Sony here. So you can see it's flaring the lens just a little bit, but I like that little hazy flare look, and so that's what I was going for. And then over here, on this angle, you can see we've got the Lupo Super Panel Full Color 60 with the grid. And then over here, on this monitor, you can see the reflection of the ProLight Orion just kind of reflecting back into the RED Komodo there. But it gives the monitor more of a, like, it stands out better. You can't really see it, it's kind of glary. And then this light provides, not only is it my key light over here, but also it provides interest to the whiskey and outlines it with this nice kind of white glow. Because that's my only real main white light over here. And then, of course, for this shot, we've got the Rotolite Titan back there. And then I have a 120D Mark II illuminating the Rotolite Titan to make sure you can see that. And then I have the second one just illuminating the corner there. So if I turn that off and on, you can see the corner gets brighter and less bright. And then, as always, we have the little KMTV Bolton Andromeda Slim Tube providing that behind me. So if I turn it on, it provides that nice texture behind me. As for anyone that's seen my streams in the past, it's familiar. But if I turn it off, it just kind of goes into blackness, which is also kind of visually interesting. It's more mysterious. You know, I kind of like that. I'm going to leave that on for the remainder of the stream. We're turning that one off today. And that's the lights that we have. If you have questions about the lights, please ask them now, because we're going to get off track real fast. Let's get through some of these comments. What's up, Bart? Thanks for showing up, man. You're watching me on the big screen. Very cool. Thursday already. Robert Machado. Is that a red? Hashtag is that a red? Yeah. Exactly. I can't wait to publish this video. The side-by-side comparisons, just, they're, I think I'll trick a few of you. Robert probably will figure it out because he's just like that, but everyone else I think will be tricked. Bart Johnson Productions. I'll grab a quick bourbon and join you. Well, thank you for joining me. Mr. Camera Junkie, what's going on? We got Nils Codes, yoink. Robert, A camera, A7S, yeah, you guessed it. Robert Machado got his Titan X2 in today. It's quite the fixture, man. That is an exciting piece of work. Actually, if you want to come on in like 15, 20 minutes, we can talk about what you like and dislike about the Titan so far. I'd love to have you on. You're always a fancy guest with good lighting. Let me know in the comments, and we'll bring you on here, and I'll get this set up. Bart Johnson, monitors here. Yeah, the monitor, the wireless monitor. God, I love this thing. It's very, very handy to have that around. And it's SDI, so I can just plug the Komodo straight into it if I need to. Global shutter is a big selling point. It is. You were really pumped when Blackmagic promised a global shutter in the 4.6K Ursa, and they couldn't do it, but the 4K had it. Yeah, they couldn't do it because I guess global shutter generally lacks dynamic range, and that's what's so exciting about the Komodo's global shutter is it has both dynamic range and global shutter, you know. Little speculation, highlights in the bottle and glass. Gotta have it. Yeah, I love these things. Here we go. Eduardo says the 120 are with barn doors. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. So the 120D Mark II that I have, basically just lighting the Rhodolite Titan. This one has the barn doors and the Fresnel, and this one is on a softbox with a grid, so it's still directional. Quasnick Pictures, what's going on, man? Thanks for showing up tonight. How's the Komodo so far? I've been able to get it all figured out. Yeah, this is the Komodo angle. I went over that a little bit in the beginning. I held it up. I'll hold it up again a little bit later. But yeah, it's all wireless. I got the monitor, got the transmitter. The cables are still kind of a little bit of a rat's nest. That's one thing I haven't figured out yet is cable management, particularly well. Even though they're short cables, they still look pretty messy, and I don't really like that. Kristen's Lujeras, I think I butchered that name. Morning, looking forward to have Lupo Super Panel soon. Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually, I am letting go of one of my Super Panel full color 60s with the lenses attached. I'm selling off a couple of lights so I can buy more lights to review. So if anyone wants to pick that one up and you're in America, shoot me a message. I can't ship internationally. Robert, not quite set up at the moment. Pretty much sky panel killer. Color fidelity is on par with everything else out there. Yeah, the Rhodolite Titan, I mean, it's become a staple in my videos pretty much immediately. The color quality is amazing. It's very bright. The interface is fantastic. And just it's so versatile. So I really like the Rhodolite Titan. Anyways, back to the subject here with the RED Komodo. Yeah, so as I was saying, it's just the 6K image downsampled to 4K looks a lot better in my timeline when I'm comparing it against the A7S III on the timeline, on a 4K timeline, obviously. But no one is ever going to see that because of the way it becomes compressed on the internet. And it's just, it's baffling to me that I was so anxious to get it, because I'm the only one that's going to be able to see the benefit, honestly, after YouTube's compression has its way with it. They're both going to produce an equivalent image. And I'm in a well-lit studio. I am in a controlled environment. So it's not like the camera is going to need to push and pull the dynamic range all over the place really crazy. And when I use the probe lens, at f14, the A7S III was really, really easy to use it because of the ISO 12800. But as soon as I put it on the Komodo, I need to blast all my lights super bright, f14 obviously, and the ISO performance is awful. So I can't use the probe lens with the Komodo while I have the A7S III as my A-cam because the A7S III will just be all blown out unless I also add NDs or like bump up the shutter speed or something. But the lighting is more difficult to control if I want to use both cameras at the same time while I use the probe lens. So I can use the probe lens on the A7S III and use the Komodo as, you know, my other camera, my A cam or something like that. So there's that aspect of it. It's just, it's more difficult to work with multiple camera systems. And the biggest thing that has got me not excited to use it, the thing that has slowed down my workflow, is the storage space. I filmed a 2-minute, 40 frames per second, 6K RED HQ clip, you know, the highest data, the most data that it will consume on the card. In 2 minutes, it's 35 gigabytes. That's a lot. So I don't think that I'll ever use the 40 frames per second. I mean, I never really use slow-mo anyways, so that doesn't bother me too bad. But that's not that much different than if I had just done 24 frames per second, you know, be closer to like 25 gigabytes. I'm guessing I didn't do the 2-minute clip because I just haven't done that yet, but it's a lot of data. And when I'm creating a video with the Komodo, I find myself needing to produce that video differently. I need to script the video because I can deliver the video to the media much faster than if I were to just do, you know, what I like to do with the A7S III, which is just kind of figure it out, you know, go on an exploratory process where I'm learning about something and teaching you guys, and then I edit the story in post to, you know, deliver the video that I want to create. I can't do that with the Komodo because it's going to take too much data. So I script the video and then I deliver a scripted video, and I don't want to do it any other way because of how much data it would take to go through an hour and a half of, you know, RED footage. So that aspect of it changes the way that I need to create content. So it has to be much more intentional, which is not a problem. Sometimes I want to deliver a scripted video, and I found myself wanting to do that more often now just because it's easier to deliver more information in a more condensed period of time. But then I've also found that delivering a scripted video, sometimes that scripted videos just don't do as well. And I don't know if that's a topical problem because it's lights, and sometimes people just aren't interested in lights. So, you know, you don't get a ton of views, you don't get a ton of watch time on videos about lights all the time. That's just the way YouTube is and the way the audience that consumes content on YouTube is. So I don't know if that's the problem or if it's just that I'm delivering a scripted video and scripted videos have less of a conversational feel to them. Or maybe I need to practice delivering different scripts. I don't know. There's a lot. The one thing that I can say confidently about the RED Komodo so far and my experience using it, which is this angle here, is that I have a lot to learn. It's a beautiful piece of engineering. It's a beautiful camera. It will never overheat. It'll record all the colors in the image, and if I need to get the best possible image quality that I can achieve, then I should use the Komodo because I can record in 6K. Not only can I punch in to retrieve an image similar to the Sony A7S III, I can deliver a more clear, more crisp, larger format image on the Komodo, period. And I know that all the colors can be pushed and pulled as needed if I needed to. So if I'm going to go outside, then maybe I should use the Komodo. Although, if I go outside with a Komodo and it's 20 degrees cooler or hotter than it was inside my house, I need to re-black shade the camera, which means turn it on, go to the settings, hit calibrate, then wait for 2 minutes, turn the camera off, turn it back on, which takes another 25 seconds. And then at that point, I can record whatever I'm trying to record. It's also heavier than a small setup like the A7S III. It's just a lot, you know, it's a different way to capture media. Anyways, let's read some of these comments here. Bart says, Robert Machado, wow. I think he's probably talking about the Titan X2. Christian, sorry, too far. I'm in Latvia. Latvia, that's an interesting country. I've heard of it a few times. I don't know anything about it other than that's a country. Bart says, now you know why I got my 112 terabyte RAID. Yeah, that's a lot of data. Abdullah says, Luxley Cello 10 RGB light versus GVM 1200D RGB light. Which one will be better? I've heard good things about the Luxley lights. So my money would be on the Luxley light, although I know GVM has kind of stepped up recently with their stuff. I'd probably say the Luxley, but I don't have specific reviews of either of those lights. So, this is just me guessing and speculating. Quasnick says that's massive file sizes. How's editing with it, your PC handling the footage, or do you need proxies? I don't use proxies. So with the Komodo, I've recorded 6K LQ, which is the highest compression the RED can do, this RED can do, in 6K. And that's how I recorded my previous video, the video about the Nanlite Mix Panel 150. And at one point I had 3 6K files, boom, 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 with me doing this kind of like Zoolander look, one of those. And at that point, and then I also had text on the 3 text nodes on the screen, and that was in DaVinci Resolve, and it handled it. I have an iMac Pro from 2017. If that tells you anything, it's got 64 gigs of RAM, but it's a 2017 iMac Pro. It's not the M1 crazy new laptops or Macs. It's not a spec'd out Mac Pro. It's just an iMac Pro from 2017. So, it handled 3 streams simultaneously of RED with text on the screen and everything, and grades. So it's fine to edit with. It actually edits a tiny bit less. It's less smooth, I think, than the A7S III footage by just a hair. I think that the A7S III footage, the 10-bit 422 files, which I record in XAVC-S at 100 megabits per second on the A7S III, and then I do slog3, sgamut.3 cine, and then I apply, my LUTs onto that. I think that they edit roughly the same. I think that the A7S III is just a little bit smoother. So, I don't see any advantage or disadvantage in terms of editing workflow. It's just, I know that I need to clean out my hard drives much sooner, and I can't ramble on and edit after the fact because I'll run out of data on my cards. And also I can't be a data hoarder. I can't keep all my A-roll forever because it's a waste of space at that point. Previously I've been archiving all my footage, but now I'm at the point where I had just gotten used to the Sony A7S III. Like, I was recording on the GH5 in 8-bit 420, 100 megabits per second, I think was the data rate that I was recording in. I don't know. When I got to the A7S III, the file sizes, when I started going into 10-bit 422, they were a lot bigger, but I decided that it was okay. Like, okay, I can get with the times here. When I jumped from 1080p to 4K, that was staggering. And then 4K 8-bit to, Sony A7S III, started using 10-bit 422 and all that. That was like, double the file size. I was like, okay, fine. But then going to the Komodo, the file sizes are like 10 times bigger to 100 times bigger, depending on exactly what I decide to record. And if I only record 4K, the file sizes are 2.5 times bigger. So the 4K images, or the 4K files from the Komodo, are 2.5 times bigger than the 4K files that I'm getting from the A7S III in maximum compression. Considering the A7S III, I record 422, 100 megabits per second, 4K, 24 frames per second. So the file sizes at minimum are 2.5 times bigger. So I need 2.5 times more data. And the image quality when recording 4K in my environment, in my controlled studio environment, is not any level better. If I want better image quality, I need to bump it up to 6K, and that's 10 times the file size, which is crazy. So, and also I'm the only person that's really going to realize that because, YouTube compression. So it's like all these things that I've been thinking about. It's like, I know that, I I want to recant and say, I know I still have a lot to learn about this camera, and I know that I'm only just scratching the surface, but what I can confidently tell you is if you are on the fence about getting a RED Komodo or an A7S III, you will definitely and with extreme certainty achieve better image quality if you buy the A7S III and lights. You need lights. Lights are where it's at. Like I've been saying this entire time, I get the same image quality in my studio because it's a controlled environment with controlled lighting. I control the lights, I control the image. The sensor, I mean, they're both recording the same thing. I'm giving them the same amount of light, and I'm controlling it. I understand light. It's all about the light. Just start buying lights, because you're not going to want to sell a light that you just bought this week in, 2 months when Sony releases the next FX3 or RED comes out with the RED Mini Komodo or something like that, or Alexa comes out with their Alexa Micro, or I'm speculating. I don't think they're ever going to do that, but buy lights, because lights, once you learn lighting, then you can use any camera and it will still look to it'll get to the point where any image you create, you will need to see a side-by-side of another sensor to determine which image is which, and you'll need to look at them for a while, because the only person that really cares is you. And the Komodo fits a certain workflow for a certain type of people because it has certain things that certain filmmakers need. I clearly don't need most of those things. I really like being able to have a VMAP battery just slot onto it because I got the converter from the 2 Canon BP batteries and I stuck that on the Komodo because I like VMAP batteries, and I like that I can power my camera with the same battery that all my lights use, which is great. But do I like having to wait 2.5 minutes before I can record something if the temperature changes or if the shutter speed changes by more than a fraction of a second? Not really. I think that I'll lose the thing that I'm trying to record at that point. It's a different workflow, and I'm still learning it. I've got a lot to learn. Let's have a sip and read some comments. Here we go. Love to play with some timpanis. I've heard good things about those. Bart says, Tommy, show me all those crazy other RGB panel lights. Yeah, I'm still doing the showdown of all the ridiculous RGB WW full color panels. We've got that coming. It's going to happen. I'm really excited about it. We're going to do it. Just hang on. I've still got to do all this, intake of the Komodo. I'm so excited that the camera's here and it's built. I've got the Small HD Indy 7. It's fantastic. The focus peaking works really well. I can control the camera. I can start recording, stop recording with the monitor itself. I'm not a huge fan, actually, of the touch screen interface to control the cameras. I like physical buttons, so I think that if Small HD was selling a RED Komodo monitor, that it would have done better if it had physical clicky dials on it instead of like the weird touch screen interface. That's just me. I suppose, I don't know. That's one of the first few. I've not really heard anyone else complain too much about that interface, but it's always bothered me on all of their monitors. Clearly, I'm not sponsored by them. They didn't send me anything. Bart says, honestly, a controlled studio environment is not where cinema cameras shine. Yeah, don't listen to Tommy, buy lenses. Yeah, we'll see. I definitely need to have some experience with the ND filters because I took it outside and everything was blown out and I needed to change the shutter speed. But then I was like, man, if I change the shutter speed too much, then I need to re-black shade the camera. And my kid's already, way too far away for me to record them anyways. So I just went back inside. So I need to get probably the variable ND thing, which, seems like a variable ND or an ND built into the cinema body makes a lot of sense to where you wouldn't miss a moment like that. Lesson learned. Old lenses and then rehouse them. Unfolding ideas. Yeah, we can do that. Like this guy. This is the PC Hood Cinematics Sigma 18-35, which actually is a fantastic lens, and I've used it a bunch. I really like the way the lens flares look while you're zooming with it. I did it in one of my videos, and like it looks really cool. It's parfocal, works great. Coupon code Tommy, and you'll save 5%. I'll be doing a side-by-side comparison of this versus the actual Sigma 18-35 because I have two Sigma 18-35s now, which is like the best investment you can make in glass, period. Yeah, so I agree. Lenses are awesome. Marry the lens, date the body. Celadonio, I think I pronounced that super wrong, but power was out for me here for 10 hours, but luckily I had a VMAT batteries. Yeah, it's always fun when the power goes out and you got a whole bunch of VMAT batteries and like you just light up the whole place with a whole bunch of lights. I love doing that. Not so much the whole having power outages. That's not cool. That temperature and shutter speed stuff is a RED thing. Never been a fan. Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, that's another thing that makes me lean towards wanting to get the FX6. Black shading the camera. Who's got time for that? You know? Why do they say marry your lenses, date your cameras? Because when you buy a new camera body, if it has the same mount, then you can mount that lens to that camera body. And the lenses generally improve much slower than cameras. In fact, you can still buy vintage lenses, and some of them are very expensive because lenses don't go bad. It's particularly manual lenses, right? It's all just gears and glass and metal, or plastic in a lot of cases. But the lenses, you can use them forever as long as it has the same mount, or you can get an adapter. But with camera bodies, the technology kind of ages and becomes inadequate. So that's why. It's just a better investment. Bart says, I don't know, I did a lot of lenses. Marys are like cameras are like a booty call. That's a beautiful looking rehousing. Yeah, thank you. I really like it. It's from PC Hood Cinematics. Ranger7 says he's not a fan of the 18-35. It defocuses when you shut off the camera. Well, you'd be happy to know that won't happen with this because this is a fully manual focus Sigma 18-35, and this one's parfocal. So you don't ever have that issue anymore if you get a rehoused one. They're like, this one's like $1,600. The only difference is it introduces focus breathing as opposed to if you get the actual Sigma version of the Sigma 18-35, the Cine version. That one will cost you $3,000. So it's worth it to me. Bart says you do have to black balance the Sony cams. FS7 calls it APR. Not sure what that means, but it's black balance. Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I wonder why that is that you have to black balance or black shade these cinema cameras when you can get arguably the same dynamic range out of something like the Sony A7S III. I've never black shaded or APR'd my Sony A7S III, yet the image quality is pretty darn good. I don't know. What about the Blackmagic cameras, the Pocket 4K, Pocket 6K? Do you have to black shade those or whatever? I don't know. I've never worked with those, but I'm also very curious. Celendio says, who needs autofocus when you can do manual deep focus? Yeah, actually, the Komodo, I found, has very, very good autofocus with the Sigma 18-35. The EF mount adapted to their RF mount. You'll see the autofocus in the comparison video that I'll be posting in the next few days between the Komodo and the A7S III. And the image quality is like the same. The autofocus performance is, in my own testing, the same as long as, you're reasonable understanding how center point or, point autofocus works. It's not center point. You can point the box wherever you need it to be. But the autofocus works fantastically. In fact, I'll turn it on for you guys if you're curious. That's what it's like to turn on the autofocus on the RED Komodo. Now let's point this down a bit. Okay, now I put the box on the whiskey glass. Now I'm going to move it out of frame, out of where it's supposed to be focused. In. Out. In. The autofocus on the Komodo is shockingly fantastic compared to what I was used to with any camera that wasn't the Sony a7S III. It works exactly as you would expect it to work, and it hits every time. It's just they have a box, and the box is there. The box doesn't track anything. It's just if you're in the box, you're in focus. You can change the size of the box, but that's about it. Komodo does have phase detect autofocus, so you know it's not contrast based like the GH5 was. The thing is, in some cases, the way the autofocus performs on the Komodo has actually been better than the a7S III. I don't know if this is going to happen right now, but we'll see. I noticed with the a7S III, sometimes if I'm just peeking behind whatever I'm trying to hold up to the camera, I don't know if it's going to do it right now. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it'll keep my face in focus behind whatever I'm trying to hold because it's like it knows where I am, and it's like, yeah, you're not getting out of focus. But the Komodo is just like, if you're in the box, whatever you are, you're in focus. If you're closest thing in the box, then that's what you're on. Boom, in focus. It works really, really well. And that's something that I really like about the Komodo, surprisingly. I thought that it was just going to be like, well, this is a thing and we have it, you know, just to say that we have it. But it actually is quite useful. And every video that I've recorded with Komodo and I found myself preferring the photo Sigma 1835 when I don't have a need to use the gears, like when I put it on the Rhino slider, because the autofocus is faster than having to try and manually focus the Cine lens. I know there's different uses for Cine lenses that make them more valuable, and there's a reason they cost so much and a reason people want them. Particularly for machine movements like with the a7S III, or using focus wheels and gears, having a focus puller. But for me, as a one-man shooter, the Photo Sigma 1835 is surprisingly more simple to use and less time-consuming than having to set up the Cine lens. So that actually quite surprised me. Now, I like the way this one looks a lot better, so I want to use this one more often because it's fucking hot, right? But you know, out of trying to save time, I'm finding myself wanting to use the autofocus more often. Blackmagic cams have never asked me to do that. Not sure why it's needed. Yeah, I've never had a black shade or the BMPCC 4K, so I don't think so. That's weird why some cameras have to black shade, others don't. The ones, and all of them have fantastic dynamic range. The Komodo, I think the last 2 stops of their proclaimed 16 stops of dynamic range are monochrome. There's no saturation in them. Not that anyone has really noticed except for in testing, but you know, if they've all got 13 to 15 stops of dynamic range and the last 2 stops are basically pointless, you know, what's with the black shading? Why can't we just figure that out? What's the temperature got to do with black? I don't know. Maybe it's just the way the pixels are arranged and why the red's grain noise pattern looks so good the way that it is. I don't know. I have to do a dark calibration on my Sekonic C800. I wonder if that's similar to balancing a camera. You know, that's an interesting thing. I don't know, but now I'm curious. That's an excellent question because, yeah, of course, I have to do the same thing on my, Sekonic C800. And when I had the UPRTech CV600, which was another spectrometer, a scientific measuring tool for light, you also had to calibrate the darkness to tell it what 0 lux was, which I guess is black, and which may be black shading. That's a very good observation. Perhaps. Anyways, Let's have a sip. How's this audio working out over on the whiskey camera? I mean, it's there. Hey, can you hear the cheers better? Is that better? I plugged in the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus and put it right down there. Turn the volume down a bit so you would just hear the the whiskey sounds. Here, I'll play with the lens cap. You can ASMR that. Bart says, actually, Sakonic says if the temperature of the C800 changes too much, it needs to be dark calibrated again. That is interesting. Very interesting. Hey, you know, since we're at this point in the show, then I can hold the RED Komodo up and maybe I'll try and do a little bit of run and gun. Okay. So, RED Komodo. All right, let's see. I gotta check the settings on my Blackmagic 810 Mini Pro. Make sure that camera 1 here. Try and turn on picture-in-picture. Here we go. So we are run and gun with, oh, hang on. There we go. Now, you can see me with the Komodo. This is my build. And you can see what it's recording. I mean, you can only see half of it, but now it's in focus. There we go. Actually, it looks a lot better on the small HD monitor than it does transmitted. I wonder if it's because there's a difference in the gamma or something like that. I don't know. There's the Titan. Isn't this fun, guys? Look at that. Nope, I gotta set a focus. There we are. That is a beautiful light, you guys. Look at that. There we are. So I need to keep it on the right side of the screen for you guys to see what I'm looking at. Fantastic light. Okay, let's run and gun here. And if you haven't already seen... Oh man, I just realized that I need to have a microphone following me on this thing. Whatever. Next time, I will put a microphone into, because it has a microphone jack in it. Just you know, I could put the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus in it, and then I could point that at my mouth, and then we could walk around and actually live stream and run around and do that with the Komodo, which is kind of cool. You know, it's nice to have a big fancy camera that you can show people, because that's why I got it, just to show you guys. You know. The focus is not working as well as I want it to be. There we are. Okay, well, enough of that. Who's got questions? That was a fun little adventure, now wasn't it? Do some looking, but I bet they're related. Are you only recording half the Komodo screen to hopefully save half the data? Very funny. No, I just had the Komodo on there because I wanted you guys to be able to see me while I was running around with the Komodo. But you know, it was not the best laid plan or planned out as well as it should have been planned, so, you know, whatever. Yeah. Who's got questions about lights? Dang, I'll have to catch the replay. Jake, why will you have to catch the replay? It's only 10:49. What are you doing right now? You want to join the stream? It'd be really fun. We could talk about the Komodo. You guys, I've already talked everything that I had to talk about. So I've got curiosities about the Komodo, and I'm not sure where it stands in my own repertoire of gear, you know, it will lose value in the next several months. And I don't know if that value should be reinvested into different gear, or if I should just continue struggling and learning with a Komodo and then invest in like a 120 terabyte RAID array to deal with the footage. I like the Komodo, but the only reason I would want to really keep it is, one, for global shutter to record certain special effects and lights, which I honestly don't see myself really doing. Two, would be for videos where I compare it to something else because it's a RED, RED versus whatever, and that's got a lot more potential to go viral. And I think that's probably why I would keep it. Beyond that, it slows me down. Every time I turn the camera on to try and record a video, it takes longer to use, longer to set up, and the data takes longer to import, and it takes more hard drive space, and I have to spend more time trying to figure out where to put that data, what data to save. It's just everything about it slows me down, and I don't know if, I just don't know yet. We'll see. Maybe that'll change. Maybe it'll become a very comfortable workflow. I know that when I first got the A7S III, the first couple of weeks that I spent with it, I didn't know anything about S-Log, how to get the best colors out of the A7S III. I felt like it looked awful, and it was frustrating, and I just wanted to use the GH5. But then I learned how to use the A7S III, and now I don't even want to use the GH5. I think that the colors on the A7S III just look so much less cartoonish. I find myself considering selling the GH5 and the Fuji X-T3 and just buying another Sony A7S III. I want 2 or 3 of them. They're amazing. So maybe that learning curve will maybe I'll approach that learning curve, and then it'll become downhill, and then it'll become more comfortable, and then I'll like it, and then I won't want to use the A7S III anymore. I'm open to learning about the camera to a point where knowing which camera I need to pick up to achieve my goals better. And right now that camera is still the A7S III, and I don't know if the Komodo is ever going to reach, that level of, meeting my needs. I think that it's far beyond my needs, at least at this point. So we're going to see what happens there. I don't know. Jake agrees with Bart. You could rent it out using sites like ShareGrid and have it pay for itself. Yeah, I think about that, and then I worry about if they break something, and how's the insurance work, and I feel like I don't know if that's a great idea. I'm very particular about my gear. I don't know, everything that I would need to inspect perfectly in order to qualify for insurance claims if someone breaks something and doesn't say anything. I just don't trust strangers with my stuff, so I don't know if that's the right route for me. We'll see. Cinema cameras were designed for the industry, and we change by the hour. Of course, it takes longer. Yeah. Renting it is a hassle sometimes. Komodo is hot right now because there are so few and it's new. Honestly, there's not much more to it than being a small RED. Interesting, yeah. I'm looking to jump ship from Blackmagic to Sony. Less time in color correction. Yeah, I built a LUT for the A7S III, and everyone that bought my LUT package, which I sell now for $10, I'm selling an updated version of that, or I'm sending an updated version of that to anyone that's bought it in the past, month or so since I've released it, for free, because it's going to be part of the pack. It's what I've used to correct all of my videos for the past, anytime I've used the A7S III, and it looks good. It was because it was one of my LUTs. I've got 2 more that I'm including in that pack, and I'm just going to send them out to anyone that's already bought it. So, don't need to wait or anything. It's just $10 if you want to grade like Tommy, I guess. The Blackmagic seems like it's a real hassle, but then it's basically the same hassle that the Komodo is, I guess. You have to rig it out the same, but the RED is just way more expensive. and people achieve amazing images with the Blackmagic stuff. Now, the one thing that I will say about the Komodo, it is Netflix approved, and the A7S III so far is not yet Netflix approved. It could be. It qualifies in terms of what they're looking for in image quality, but it's not yet. The FX6, I believe, is Netflix approved. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if it matters really, but it's a RED. And if you film something on RED, then, you know, people know, oh, it was filmed on RED. It probably looks really good. And there's the whole, you know, the image aspect of, you know, walking in with a RED versus walking in with a mirrorless camera, Sony A7S III, which none of that applies to me because I walk into my own personal YouTube studio and talk about lights. So I don't give a shit about the image aspect of what image I'm creating. It doesn't matter to me at all. I've got nobody to impress except for myself. So that's, maybe I'll leave it at that. Is I'm still undecided on the value that the Komodo is going to bring my channel. Unless after I make a few comparison videos, those videos take off and become, you know, potato jet viral speed, comparing a Komodo versus an iPhone or something like that. Because I've got to try it, right? I mean, I've always been curious, and not even a new iPhone. I want to try it versus like an iPhone 10. Just because I know that the image on my iPhone 10 is awful compared to anything else that I have. But just try and match that image with lighting. So we'll see what happens. I've got a lot to learn, and that's where I'm at. I'm not selling it today. I'm not going to sell it tomorrow. I'm just, I don't know, cautiously optimistic. I'm not even optimistic. I'm just cautiously curious. I want to make sure it's like stocks, right? It's like a meme stock at this point. I want to keep my money. I want to keep my investment valuable. I don't want it to become, a waste of money at some point, because I know that money can be invested into other equipment that could improve the quality of my content for sure. If I have an A7S III that has the probe lens always attached to it, and I will get the second A7S III soon, but if I have a probe lens always attached to it, then I'll use it more often. I won't be as discouraged from using it because I have to take the lens off, put the lens cap on, the other thing, and then take the probe lens, then set it up, and then change the settings. I don't know. It's just knowing that I have to spend another minute doing something just to get that lens set up and to use it, it discourages me from using it, so I might not actually use it. But it's I have all the equipment, but it's just, I want everything in my studio to be 100% convenient, 100% optimized workflow. Everything is about speed and getting things done quickly. And with the Komodo, that is not ever going to be the case. It is a process. It is a camera that takes time to use properly. And I don't have time. That's my most valuable asset. It's Thursday nights and a little bit on the weekends is when I get to do video stuff. And so that's how I feel so far. And that's, it's, I guess the best way to describe it is indifferently dubious, With that, looks like we're almost empty here. That red shot, it just looks like a good. This is shot on red, live stream, right? Best use of this camera ever. I've spent an hour tonight on the RED's sensor, live streaming whiskey and nonsense. Is that the best use of that hour on the Komodo, of deteriorating the value of this camera, this expensive thing that I've piled my money into, that a professional is waiting for 100 days before his ships? I don't know. It's just maybe the things that I learn about this camera will save someone money in the future, or maybe they'll help them with their career in the future. One thing that I can say for certain, though, and I've said it for certain for years, is if you certainly want to improve the quality of your work, you need to most certainly learn about lighting. Robert says, you're definitely set up to start doing some production work on the side. I would think so. I think that I have plenty of gear to do that. And perhaps the knowledge, I'd like to stay humble and say that I don't know what it takes to make a true production happen, but I feel like I know more than many people that are out there currently doing it professionally, making more money than I am professionally as a software architect. Not a ton, but some. Modern Noir says, hi Tommy, are there ways to add V-mount battery to a light that doesn't support V-mount, say Godox 120? Yeah, there are, actually I think Godox sells the converter that converts V-mount batteries into AC power outlet type thing. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they sell one. Maybe not. Maybe they just sell a battery that you charge and then has AC out. I don't know. That'd be really cool to see a V-mount to AC inverter. Let me know if you find one. But that's probably what it's called. Mad Ace NYC. I'm guessing New York City. So on image quality alone, you put the Komodo and the A7S III on par with each other. If your delivery is a 4K image, maybe. If you record 6K in the Komodo and downsample it to 4K, it looks better than the Sony A7S III in 4K. That's the thing. If you're recording in 4K with the Komodo, you can achieve a very similar image with the A7S III. So you can achieve better image with the Komodo, but that's if your delivery, if you want to record 6K. And then you have to account for the data. And the only people that will notice is someone who has a RED Komodo next to the camera recording the A7S, the only people that are going to notice is going to be someone who has the RED Komodo next to an A7S III, both recording the same subject at the same time. Otherwise, then the difference will be negligible. Mostly, if you're producing content for YouTube, you will not see the difference pretty much ever because of the compression. So yes, there's a lot to take in with that statement. And I'm sure that anyone who, owns a RED and bought a RED or is sponsored by RED or works at RED will tell me I'm wrong, and that's fine. I'm probably am, because literally this is just a hobby that I do for fun. But on my own observations as a consumer, as a hobbyist, someone who knows a lot about lighting and a little bit about color grading and a little bit about how to work with the footage so far, is that those are my observations. Sarthak says, Robert, yo, love your work, man. I was looking forward to your next video. Yeah, me too. Robert, you're awesome. By the way, Robert Machado, you guys, subscribe to him because he is an actual working professional with, he's got like 1 million Sony FX9s, or FS7s, and he's got he pretty much owns everything that Sony has ever produced in terms of content, or not content, of equipment, and his content is fire. He does everything that you would expect an actual working cinematographer to do who starts a YouTube channel, where they call out all the noob tubers like myself that are just spouting bullshit. And he's like, you're wrong. This is why. This is what's actually, this is what actually happens with this camera, and this is why you're doing it wrong. I like Robert's channel because of that, and he's awesome. So you should subscribe to him immediately. Bart Johnson says he will send me his Zcam F6 and I'll send him my Komodo, and then we'll have a video challenge. How about this, Bart? You film a video with your Zcam F6 and I'll film a video with my A7S III, and we will see who can do better. We'll have the same 30-second plot and we'll have the same shot list, but I get to use all my lights and you get to use all your lights. Now, I just happen to have about $50,000 of lights in my studio, so, we'll see who can make a better looking image. Modern Noir says, back in the days, there was available crew but no equipment. These days, there's available equipment but no crew for production. That's true. Yeah, I feel like the production world, even though I'm not technically a part of it, has been dramatically decreased or hurt because of the proceedings that happened with a thing that if you say on YouTube, they don't show your channel anymore. So I agree that particularly in California because of G. Newsom, let's just put that out there. Yeah, there's a lot of people have stepped out of the industry to walk into safer fields. Apolak says, are there a focus card like there are white balance cards? Yes, there are, actually. There's a card that has like a grid pattern and all kinds of things you can do for testing the quality and the resolution of lenses and cameras and sensors and more effects. I don't know what it's called, but yes, they have those cards. Attila says, hey Tommy, new subscriber, great channel. Just returned my 2 Luxley Tympanis for weird sound issues. Eyeing the Gemini 1x1 based on your review. Any negatives on the Gemini? I actually really like the Gemini. I just recently ordered a V-mount plate for it, which costs $360 for a piece of metal that attaches to your light that will take the battery and plug it into your light. So it's expensive, a little bit, but the interface is fantastic. I love that there's 6 programmable preset buttons, and there's a switch to turn those preset buttons into the CCT buttons from the tungsten to the daylight range. Their interface is fantastic. The light is awesome. It's not the brightest thing in the whole world, but it looks really professional. It's a fantastic light. It's extremely quiet. You can turn the fan off. I really, really like the Gemini, and you won't be disappointed with it unless you've used the Rhodolite Titan already. Now, that being said, the Rhodolite Titan X1 is more expensive. If you use the coupon code Tommy right now, you can buy it for $3,000, and they'll send you the conversion, the dual V-mount battery conversion to 28 volts or 24 or whatever it requires. You can use that they'll send it to you for free. So it's like a $1,300 coupon code that is active through March. However, if you're set on the Gemini 1x1, it's a fantastic light. I love it. And like I said, I already bought the V-mount plate because I want to use that light in my huge 1x1 panel showdown. And I want to test the output differences between the Gemini and all the others on battery power. The guys at Light Panels told me that the Gemini 1x1 has the same output as AC power if you use it with a 24 volt, 28 volt, whatever the bigger VMAT batteries are. We're at the end of the whiskey, guys. Come on, give me a break. But if you use a 14 volt VMAT battery, then the output will be reduced. So apparently you can use either size VMAT battery with it to achieve different levels of output, which is awesome. It's fantastic. I really like that light. I have nothing bad to say about it. Watch my review though. I did a full review on it. It's like 10 minutes. Maybe I said something bad. Maybe I didn't. I know I said all the things that I didn't like about it, which was probably very few things. There are brighter lights for less money, but they're heavier. They're different. Like the Aperture Nova, which is like, if you buy it now, you can maybe get it in a couple months. All right, let's check some more comments here. Sarthak says, would you rather have one big source of light to work with or a few smaller, not as strong ones? I'd go with a few lights. You have so much more control over your image. Lighting creates depth. The more lights you have, the more opportunities you have to craft your image. It's just, I would have more lights. Now that depends. If you're talking about the intensity of a pocket light, then yeah, it'd have one huge source of light that's super bright. But if you're talking about having something like the Aperture Nova versus, I don't know, I really like the Aperture Nova. I mean, you got to tell me what you're considering, like what levels of intensity, what budget we're working with here. If it's a case of MC lights versus like the Nova, then the Nova. If it's the Rhodolite Titan X2 versus two 120D Mark IIs, a Titan X1, or even just two 120D Mark IIs, a 300X, and two MCs, then I'd go with that kit because you have so much more opportunity to create a dynamic image than just a single light source. It really depends on the budget and the quality of lights we're talking about. Certain lights you buy at the low level will not mature into a professional kit, like the Godox SL60W. Very popular, very affordable light, which once you get into the range of the higher end lights, it'll just collect dust because it's kind of noisy. The interface is clunky. The build quality is honestly shit. But it's a high quality light with good output, and it works, and it will achieve a lot better lighting than what a lot of people have on YouTube. So there's just so, I mean, once you start learning about lighting, it becomes a deep dive into as far as your wallet will go. I mean, that's all there is to it. No, and now Bart has to do the battle with me on YouTube. Let's do it. All right, I'm down. And Robert says to Sarthak, depends on what the ambient levels look like, but I generally lean towards larger sources. Yeah, actually, when I had Robert on here on this stream, he had a single, like, what was it, like a 300D Mark II or something, and that was it. And he looked great. And he had half his face was lit, the other side was black because of the shadows. And then behind him was lit up, and so he was carved out from his background really well. His setup looked really good, and it was a single light, which you can do. You only need one light, but you need light. You need what I would say, and what I've said in a lot of my videos in the past is, if you have a budget for lighting, and if you have a budget to improve your image quality, period, you should, one, buy a camera. Two, spend as much money on lighting as you did on your camera before you ever look at another camera. Bart Johnson Productions. Robert's stuff is great. Been subbed for years. Yeah, I actually found Robert a few months ago. But I'm glad I did. Very smart dude. Sarthak says, trying to figure out what I should go for with a small budget for an upcoming MV project. What's the budget? Let's do this. Yeah, Attila says the Nova is too heavy and the Rhodolite is tempting. Thank you for the answer. Yeah, the Rhodolite, I'm actually selling a couple lights. The Lupo Super Panel Full Color 60 with lenses and the Photonia Chromos 5X100. So I can buy the Rhodolite Titan X2 so I can review it. If anyone's interested, by the way, I'm selling those two lights together for $3,500 shipped. I don't need the whole $3,000 that each of those lights will cost. Actually, the Photonia Chromos is like $4,000 after accessories. But anyways, I'm trying to sell those, and my local market, nobody's looking for high-end Italian lighting instruments, so it's really difficult to sell those. That's one thing I can say about Aperture, is if you're investing in lighting and you're on the fence and you're not sure if it's something that you might want to switch out later in the future, get the Aperture Nova and like 300D or 300X, because you can sell those really quickly because people know to look for them. They're searching for them. They're trying to buy them. Right now, the Lupo fixtures, the Photonia fixtures, nobody even knows what they are. So I'm having a difficult time finding people that want to buy them, But when I put an aperture thing up, then it's like I get hits immediately. So there's that to consider in the future as well. Ranger 7 Studios, have you ever tested anything by Cream Source? I have not, but if you check out a channel on YouTube, Crimson Engine, this guy, the creator's name is Rubidium. He has done some stuff on Cream Source, and I think they have some of the most interesting lights available. They've got some really cool stuff, but I've never personally used any of them. Ranger 7, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of my F&V panel, but no one wants it. Yeah, it's weird because Aperture has done such a great job at marketing their product, and they have such scarcity of their product available. Everybody wants to buy it. None of them are available. So if you are trying to sell one on the used market, you can sell it for market value. It's incredible what they've done. It's truly commendable in terms of launching products and retaining value in the marketplace and desirability. No other lighting company has ever done that. I think Godox is finally learning that they need to shotgun blast other products out to as many creators as possible to create the demand. But Godox has, I don't know, huge, I don't know what their production facility looks like or how they've done it, but they are delivering all of their products there's no scarcity in Godox's products. They have so many huge factories, I imagine. So congrats to them for that. But Aperture has started that trend and they've done a great job. So, I mean, supply and demand. Exactly. Thank you, Ranger 7 Studios. Eduardo German says, what about the FX6? A7S3 upgrade? Yes. So this is the Komodo. Again, I'm pointing that out again. RED Komodo. Looks really pretty, right? FX6 costs. Let's talk about that. So the RED Komodo the body costs $6,000. The Sony FX6 costs $6,000. But the RED Komodo monitor that I have on there with the RED control costs $1,400. And then the RED handle costs $500. And then the other handle costs $200. And then the transmitter, the SDI transmitter, costs $650. And then the VMount battery adapter costs $200. The CFast cards costs ridiculously a lot. There's about $1,000 in CFast media. And then you have to get the CFast reader. And then let's just say you already have EF lenses. You're looking at least $10,000 of camera equipment before you get filming. I'm at 13. Now, the FX6, I think that I can probably find the VMount adapter, use my VMount batteries, and then start filming because I have the A7S III lens. I think that the FX6 is about half the price of the Komodo, truly, if you're looking at it in that regard. There's so many accessories that you still need with the Komodo to make a workflow that makes sense. What CFast did I buy? Well, I found, sorry for your ears. Let's check it out. The CFast cards that I got. Here we are, right up in my nose hairs. So we have one here, which is the Angelbird CFast cards. Angelbird 256. I got two of these for the same price that I got one of these. This is the Silicon Power 512 gigabyte CFast card. Now, Silicon Power, now I'm going to be going over this in my comparison video against the Komodo and the A7S III. But this is really interesting. You can buy, obviously you can buy twice as many Silicon Power cards for the same budget. The Silicon Power cards are not on RED's approved list of media. And when you plug in the Silicon Power card to the RED Komodo, it says this is not an approved piece of media for the Komodo. However, I recorded that 35 gigabyte 2-minute clip in the maximum resolution, maximum frame rate, everything on the Komodo. And in fact, I recorded the last several videos on this card and it performed fine. There was no hiccups. I think that Silicon Power just has not gotten approved yet because they've either not sent RED their cards to be tested and vetted and approved, or they haven't paid RED whatever their fee is. I don't know how that works, but RED did test the 256 gigabyte Silicon Power card, and that card is not fast enough to deliver the maximum bit rate that the RED can record in. So they're off the list. But the 512 gigabyte card, because it has more memory, I guess they told me that the larger memory card sizes they're just always faster, and it worked out. And it actually did work out. I didn't lose any footage. I've had no errors, but you have to put up with the same error that you get in similar to the one you get with the Sony a7S III when you're recording with a battery that's not approved, that doesn't have the stupid hologram on it. You just get the error that says that it's not an approved thing, so do you want to continue? And then you have to click yes, and that's really frustrating. But it'll get you twice as much media for the same money. So there you go. Nils is heading out, and good night. Thank you for showing up. And Bart Johnson, yeah, pretty sure RED charges just to be evaluated. Yeah, so they extort their brands to be evaluated. They pay a licensing fee essentially to be approved by RED, which, if that's the case, I think that's super shady. Not shady, shitty. I think that if they're trying to make the Komodo the affordable brand, going on to extort other brands to become RED approved is not cool. I don't know how their process works, but if that is the case, if they charge to be evaluated, that's not cool. I think that they should be, if I was RED and I had a camera that accepted CFast cards, I would buy every CFast card on the market, test it, and give my customers a list of what cards they could use. I wouldn't charge a fee to be welcomed into RED's ecosystem. That's not cool. But then again, I'm just a hobbyist. I'm a consumer, and I think that people should be treated fairly. So we'll see what happens with this relationship with my RED Komodo. We'll see. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I gotta run. I'm hungry, and this stream has gone on for too long. I've pushed it. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.